Hi everyone, it's Lisa. Thanks for joining me today. I am sitting on my cutting table and I've got my monopod between my knees showing you my design board. I don't have a really good vantage point in my sewing room to show you this, and it was too awkward to bend around, so I figured I would just sit on my table and show it to you this way. Let me take this in a little bit if I can. Or move it out. I have my LeMoyne Star quilt set up on point, and on point means that the squares are turned so they're running north and south, and then east and west. And that means that the diagonal is the measure that becomes important to us when we're trying to figure out how many blocks that we need for the size quilt that we're making. My quilt has an unspecified length and width at this point. I just basically have blocks and I'm putting them up on the design board. As I finish them, I will redistribute them, but this is just basically getting them on the board and helping me know which dark and light backgrounds more that I need to complete my quilt. I wanted to share with you how to quickly figure out how many blocks you need to get the fill that you need for the length and width for your quilt. Because this is on point, it's the diagonal that's running through, and we rely on Pythagoras, and Pythagoras tells us that the length of our block from diagonal to diagonal, from here to here, is going to be 1.414 times the side of my block. My block is 9.5 inches finished. If I multiply that by 1.414, I get about 13.4 inches. So as I count my blocks across, and I know that I've got a length of 13.43, and the same thing from top to bottom. Now the other thing that we do when we put a quilt on point is that we have to fill in the spaces. So say for example that let me just show you a spot. Yeah, okay. Here's a spot. All right, it's kind of hard to point through the viewfinder. All right, so here is, if I were to put no other block and to be able to get a straight row, I have to put a piece in here, and the piece that I would need is a triangle, and more specifically a quarter square triangle. It's a quarter square triangle because it's 1/4 of a square. We've taken a square, we've cut it on two diagonals so that we have 4 pieces. The essential element of those 4 pieces is that the bias is on the inside of its neighbors, so I've got and then the straight of grain is going to be on the outside of the block and on the side of the quilt, and that's really very important. Conversely, if I were to put nothing else down here and I needed to square off this end here, I would put in a corner setting triangle. A corner setting triangle is always a half square triangle. So hopefully those are a couple of things that will help you if you decide to do something on point. On point can provide quite a bit of drama to your quilt, but it does require you to piece things together a little bit differently and think about your stuff a little bit differently, as well as you have to have quarter setting and excuse me, you need to have, I don't know why my brain wants to mess these up when it gets to my mouth. You need corner setting triangles, 4, which are half square triangles, and you need side setting triangles, which are quarter square triangles. And those are the additional elements that you need, but they do provide for a very dramatic block and setting. Now the other thing that I had a problem with, I have some 2 blocks, errant blocks over here in the doghouse, and I'm going to go over there a little more closely. Hold on. I was trimming these blocks. I had plenty to trim, but I did not have enough clearance for my point here. And I was a little perplexed by that because I hadn't had any problems before. And the reason for it is when I was sewing this block, I had a scant 1/4 inch. And with the scant 1/4 inch, I didn't get enough coverage of this point. So the point is actually extending further than it needs to. Now I had plenty to cut off because my insets are oversized, but I just didn't have enough on this point. So I will probably, and I have this, whoops, I have this problem here as well. And I needed to look at my machine setup, and sure enough, I had a scant 1/4 inch. So keep that in mind if you're doing points such as this, and you have oversized units that you're going to trim down. It's important that you get enough coverage, and a scant 1/4 inch may not give you that if you're trimming oversizing and trimming down, and then figuring out why you don't have what you thought you were going to have. I also want to share with you this block here, which is really pretty cute. And because my points are made out of the background fabric, it creates a nice illusion of additional points here that are in fact a diamond that recedes into the background. I have that same type of effect going here. This background is receding into the inset. This diamond's receding into the inset, and when you get a little further away, it provides a really neat effect for that particular block. All right, that's all I wanted to show you today. More later as I complete my odyssey of my LeMoyne star quilt.